Okay, good morning. Welcome to
FunMath number 143.
FunMath number 143. Today we're starting a new chapter in Art of Problem Solving's algebra book, and it's about lines. And the one thing they talked about today, which I think is really important to remember and learn about, is something called the distance formula. So we have our x and y plane, and we have, let's say we have a point here that's, oh, I don't know, 4, 11, which means we go over 4x and then up 11. It's probably not drawn perfectly right, but that's fine. And I'll make another point here, which is minus 1, and that means we go backwards 1 on the x direction and down 1 in the y direction. And the question is, how far apart are these points? Okay? It's a pretty interesting question, because if we can answer that, then we can actually represent things in a plane and draw pictures and use those pictures for maps and stuff like that. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Alright, so there must be a way to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the way, do you remember how you figure it out from what we talked about earlier today? What do you do?
Well, there's a right triangle.
Okay, you draw a right triangle. And why does this right triangle help you?
Well, you can use the Pythagorean Theorem. That's
You can use the Pythagorean Theorem. So we actually have a distance formula for right triangles that we learned in geometry. And it says for a right triangle, if one side is A and the other side is B, and the hypotenuse is C, what does the Pythagorean Theorem tell us?
It's A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So if we know the lengths of the two sides of the triangle, we can find the third length using the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, well in my example here, what's the length of this side? How far is it from x equals minus 1 to x equals 4?
It's 5.
5. How did you figure that out?
I subtracted the 2.
Okay.
4 minus minus 1.
Alright, so we did 4 minus minus 1. 4 minus minus 1, which equals?
Which is 5.
5. Now how tall is this?
We have to go from minus 1 to 11.
We have to go from minus 1 to 11, which is 12. How'd you figure that out?
It's 12. It's 11 minus minus 1.
You're right. 11. Sorry about that. 11 minus minus 1 equals 12. Okay, so we have 5 and 12. All right, now would you calculate the Pythagorean Theorem for me?
5 squared plus 12 squared is C squared.
5 squared plus 12 squared is C squared.
145 plus 144 is C squared.
Okay, 25 plus 144 is C squared. Okay, so this is going to be kind of complicated.
169 is C squared.
Alright, so C squared equals 169.
But 169 is 13 squared.
Oh, how lucky is that? So it turns out that these points are a distance 13 apart. Now, are they always an integer distance apart?
No.
No.
Sometimes they're like the square root of 2 apart.
Sometimes they're a square root apart. But here I secretly chose the numbers so they would work out. That's pretty neat, right? So
yeah.
The Pythagorean Theorem that we learned in geometry, that you say, well, when am I ever going to use that? Well, it turns out on a map. Or in the Cartesian plane, which is this.
Yeah,
is
like you can figure out how far two cities are apart on a map.
Right, you can figure out how far apart two cities are on a map. That's pretty cool, right? Alright. Good job, sweetie. Good job. Good job.